Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're stepping back to look at the big picture and the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. You may have seen interviews with their stepfather, Daniel Martell, and their mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray. They both have shared very different accounts of what happened when their children vanished on May 2nd, 2025. But when you line their statements up side by side, certain patterns start to emerge and they raise serious questions. Lilly is just 6 years old. Jack is 4. They disappeared from their home in Lansdowne, Nova Scotia, and despite over 160 searchers, there's still no trace. Today, we're breaking down 10 red flags I've identified from both parents' interviews. Each one might seem small on its own, but together, they may reveal something much deeper. Watch closely and let me know in the comments which red flag stood out the most to you. The first red flag that I found was the door obsession, explaining the how, not the why. Let's start with what might seem like a small detail. The sliding door, but both Daniel and Malehya are oddly fixated on it. Daniel told CBC the children must have opened the sliding back door, which is almost silent, and left, he said. That's also very similar to what Malehya said.
They happened to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens.
Daniel also told CTV News, "So I looked at the backyard, that's the only place they would go, and their boots were gone. The door, the sliding door, was closed. Usually they don't close the door. I usually have to remind them to close the door over and over." There's a pattern here. They're both working very hard to explain how the children got outside, but there's almost no explanation as to why they got out in the first place. It's clear that the kids weren't being watched that morning. But why were 2 young children being left alone? There's no accountability. The subtext is, this isn't our fault. It was too quiet. It's too easy. It could have happened to anybody. There's no responsibility. Someone else took our kids, and it's their fault, not ours. This framing shifts the blame outwards instead of asking, who is watching the kids? And how did this happen on your watch? Speaking of which, if this were an abduction, wouldn't the door have been left open? Especially when Daniel mentions the door was closed. Usually they don't close the door. I usually have to remind them to close the door over and over. Why the sudden change of behavior on the very day that they disappeared? This isn't just about a door. It's about building a story where everything feels out of their control and nothing is their fault. Red flag number 2, language of finality. Just 24 hours after Lilly and Jack went missing, Malehya told CTV,
"We're all filled with pain and sorrow because we just want them found."
Not fear, not confusion, not hope, sorrow. That word suggests mourning, not searching. And that's deeply unusual in the early hours of a missing child case. Most parents hold on to hope, even desperately so. We usually hear words like, we're doing everything we can, we're praying, we just want them home. But here, we're hearing grief language. Language that suggests emotional acceptance. And it doesn't stop there. Daniel told CBC on May 5th.
We covered everywhere possible. Even in the first day we did.
That's past tense, as if the effort is already over. Just 3 days in, and the energy isn't urgency, it's resignation. This is a red flag in deception detection. People who know more than they're saying, consciously or not, often show signs of premature closure. They talk about the situation as if it's already finished, already lost, already beyond their control. Instead of, we're going to keep searching until they're found, it's, we tried. That's not what you'd expect from parents in a race against time. That's what you expect when someone's already accepted the worst and just hasn't said it out loud yet. Red flag number 3, the performance doesn't really match the story. Let's look at the performance versus the reality. Daniel describes his actions after the kids disappeared in vivid, almost cinematic terms. He tells CBC he jumped in his vehicle and surveyed every dirt road.
Immediately jumped in the vehicle, surveyed all the areas, many dirt roads, many culverts as I could. As soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in the vehicle and I did every dirt road and searched every culvert.
He told Global News he went through waist-deep water and that he was screaming until his throat hurt.
Screaming as loud as I can, and just until my throat hurt, running through water that was up to my waist.
It sounds like chaos, panic, an all-out physical search. But when we see him in every interview, he's calm, controlled, clean. His clothes are pristine, his hair isn't wet. There's no visible sign he's been through the woods, the mud, or the water, let alone any mention of needing to clean up or change. Sure, it's possible he freshened up before facing the media, but what stands out is not just his physical appearance, it's the disconnect between the story he's telling and the way he's telling it. This is someone who claims to have been emotionally and physically wrecked from searching for 2 missing children. Yet he's composed, articulate, and strangely rehearsed. This mismatch is critical, because when someone recounts real trauma, especially recent trauma, the body tends to show it. Shaky hands, red eyes, voice cracks, struggling to find the words. But with Daniel, the delivery is smooth. The story is consistent, almost too consistent. When the emotion doesn't match the content, we start to question the authenticity, because real panic looks chaotic. Real desperation interrupts, it rambles, it slips. This isn't that. The words say panic, but the body and the performance say something else entirely. Red flag number 4, blaming the victims. Now let's talk about something especially unsettling. The way that Daniel and Malehya described Lilly and Jack. When asked why he thinks the pair might have been abducted, Martell said, "I have no idea why anyone would want to take them, but they're easy to take. If they would have wandered to the road, they would get in any car as long as you offered them food or water or even candy or anything like that. or even to see mom and dad, they would immediately get in. He also added,
They'll talk to anyone. They want to go with anyone. They're just looking to have as much fun as they can.
Meanwhile, Malehya told CTV,
They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off.
think about this. These aren't warm, protective memories. These are descriptions of Lilly and Jack as easy targets. They're not saying, please bring our babies home. They're just little kids. We love them. They're saying, anyone could have taken them, and here's why. It doesn't come across as heartbreak. It sounds like a preemptive explanation. And one line stands out as especially odd. Even to see mom and dad, they would immediately get in. But mom and dad were inside the house, weren't they? Why would they suggest the kids climb into a stranger's car to see their parents if their parents were already home? That's not just an unusual example, it's a nonsensical one. And in a case where every single word matters, that slip raises serious questions. Even more troubling, it quietly shifts the blame. The implication is they were just too friendly. It could have happened to anyone. But this isn't about random vulnerability. This is about two very young children. When the focus is on how easy they were to take, not the fight to bring them home, you start to wonder what the real motive behind these words might be. Red flag number 5. The missing timeline. Where was Daniel? Let's talk about the timeline and the decision Daniel Martell made in the most critical window of this case. If that recording is true, Lilly and Jack were last seen around 8 a.m. Malehya called 911 at approximately 10 in the morning, but by the time the police arrived, Daniel was already gone. Martell says he then jumped in his vehicle and started looking for them. Martell said he immediately jumped in the car and searched neighboring roads, looking in culverts. By the time he returned home, the RCMP were there, having been already called by the children's mother.
Immediately jumped in the vehicle, surveyed all the areas, many dirt roads, many culverts as I could, and waited for the police to get there. As soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in the vehicle, and I did every dirt road and searched every culvert. The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt.
That means instead of staying at the house to help police or even wait for them to arrive, he left. Alone, with no coordination, no confirmed destination, no accountability. In the early hours of a missing child case, every second matters, but Daniel chose to remove himself from the scene. He took himself out of view during the most crucial time frame, when police needed eyes, statements, and timelines locked in. If Daniel truly had 2 full hours before the 911 call was made, that's a huge window of time, and he could have been doing anything. When children go missing, most parents stay rooted, frantic, desperate to be part of the response. But Daniel, he was already gone. That decision casts a long shadow over the timeline. Red flag number 6. No instinct, no urgency. What's missing speaks volumes. Beyond how Daniel and Malehya act in front of the camera, it's what they don't do that raises the biggest questions. Let's start with Lily's cough. We're told that she was kept from school that day because she wasn't feeling well. But that's it. It's never brought up again. There's no concern about whether she needs her medication, if she's cold, hungry, scared, or even just lying down somewhere weak and tired. In most missing child cases, especially with a sick child, parents obsess over their needs. She doesn't have her inhaler. He's afraid of the dark. She needs her blanket. Those instincts are automatic. They humanize the child and they guide the search. But here, there's nothing. No details. No urgency. It's like the children's needs vanished the moment they walked out the door, just like the kids themselves. Even more troubling, Malehya left the area shortly after the disappearance. There's no public explanation, no clear reason. That kind of detachment, both emotional and physical, is almost unheard of in a parent whose children are actively missing. And that silence, that's not just absence, it's a red flag. Red flag number 7. Tone and body language too calm for crisis. Let's talk about what you can see and even more what you can hear. In every interview, Daniel and Malehya are calm, but not the type of calm that comes from strength, the type that feels unnatural in a crisis. Daniel talks about running through woods screaming their names until his throat hurts, yet his face barely moves, his voice doesn't waver, he holds eye contact with the camera. No tears, no breaks, no panic leaking through the mask. Malehya, same thing. She sits composed. Her language is formal, filtered, like someone giving a prepared statement, not a desperate plea. There's no visible emotional overwhelm, no tearful moments, no shaky hands, no desperate energy. Now let's be clear, not everyone reacts the same way to trauma, but parents of missing children are almost always emotionally raw. You see tears, you see pleading, you see stumbling over words because the pain is unbearable. You feel their fear, even if they don't say a word. But here, we're seeing control, composure, a strange steadiness that doesn't match the magnitude of what's really happening. And in behavior analysis, that mismatch matters. Because when someone describes a highly emotional event, but their body or their face doesn't reflect any of that emotion, it raises the question, are they telling you what happened? Or are they telling you what they want you to believe? True fear isn't polished. True panic doesn't stay in a neat little box. But in these interviews, that panic is nowhere to be found. What we're seeing isn't desperation, it's presentation. And sometimes presentation is the biggest red flag of all. Red flag number 8. Past versus present tense. Are they already grieving? Listen closely to the way Daniel and Malehya refer to Lilly and Jack. Malehya says,
Everyone loves them.
present tense, but she also says the family is filled with pain and sorrow.
We're all filled with pain and sorrow.
That word, sorrow, as I said before in my red flag too, it is associated with loss, not hope. It's grieving language, not the kind of language you use when you think that there's still a chance. Then we look at Daniel.
Jack just absolutely loved bugs, dinosaurs, but she also loved doing everything with Jack.
These are all past tense references, describing Lilly and Jack like they're already gone. So why talk about them like it's over? Most grieving parents cling to the present tense. She is so brave. He loves trucks. They're probably scared. They refuse to switch, because switching means accepting the possibility their child might never come back. In these interviews, that switch happens quickly, almost too naturally. It suggests resignation, or worse, it can suggest foreknowledge. When someone speaks about a missing loved one in the past tense before any outcome has even been confirmed, it can be a sign they're not just afraid of the worst, they may already know it. And in a case where every word matters, those tenses don't just slip, they reveal. Red flag number 9. Scripted phrasing. Over-rehearsed, not recalled. There's a big difference between consistency and scripting. And in Daniel's interviews, that line gets blurry fast. He repeats nearly identical phrases across every network. Waist deep water, checked every culvert, screaming until my throat hurt.
Immediately jumped in the vehicle, surveyed all the areas, many dirt roads, many culverts as I could, and waited for the police to get there. As soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in the vehicle, and I did every dirt road and searched every culvert. The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt. Even with me running through the woods, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that. Screaming as loud as I can, just till my throat hurt. Running through water that was up to my waist.
On the surface, that might seem like a man staying consistent under pressure, but when you look closer, it doesn't sound like recall. It sounds like rehearsal. Here's the thing about real memories. They flex. They evolve with each retelling. New details surface. Emotions slip in. Phrasing changes slightly because you're accessing the memory, not reading from a script. But rehearsed stories, they're airtight. Same beats, same words, same order. And that's exactly what we see in Daniel's media appearances. This kind of rigid repetition, especially when describing high-stress events, can actually be a red flag in deception analysis. It often means that the speaker memorized a version of the truth they're comfortable with, and now they're sticking to it word for word to avoid slipping up. But the human mind doesn't work that way when recalling trauma. If he really had been running, screaming, wading through deep water, the emotional chaos of that experience would have seeped into each retelling. It would sound different each time, not like he was hitting the same script points over and over and over again. Red flag number 10. No direct appeal, missing the message that matters. In most high-profile missing child cases, there's one thing we almost always see, a direct emotional plea. Parents speaking to their children through the camera or begging whoever might have them to bring them home. But in this case, that emotional connection is strangely absent. Daniel does say the children's names, and he does issue a general request.
I urge the public to come out if you have anything, come out as fast as possible and get it to any detachment or any police service that you have available to get to talk to.
What's missing is a personal, heartfelt plea. There's no, Lilly, Jack, we love you. We're here. Please hold on. No emotional reach for them. No words meant for them. Just controlled, public-facing statements. More of a press conference than a desperate plea from someone who has helped raise them. And from Malehya, nothing. She never once says the children's names in her interview. She doesn't speak to them, doesn't address the public with urgency. There's no emotional slip, no desperate moment. Instead, both parents present their messages with calm delivery, generic phrasing, and an almost clinical tone. Not fear, not heartbreak, not instinct. Why does that matter? Because when children are missing, the most natural human response is to reach for them, even when you know they can't hear you. To speak as if they can. To connect, to beg, to cry, to plead. Because hope refuses to let go. But here, that connection is missing, and that's not just a missed opportunity, it's a red flag. Let me be clear, none of this is proof, but it is a pattern. And when red flags start stacking up, you don't ignore them, you look closer. You ask harder questions. Lilly and Jack are still missing, and while we all hope for the best, hope doesn't solve cases. The truth does. We've broken down 10 red flags. Now I want to know what you see. Are we witnessing two heartbroken parents doing their best, or something else entirely? All the original interview clips are linked below. Watch them for yourself. Pay attention to the tone, the phrasing, the tenses, the body language. Notice where emotion is missing and where control takes over. Then ask, does this feel like panic or presentation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What stood out to you the most?